I'm Rachel of Rachael Ellen Events. At Rachael Ellen Events, we offer event planning, event design, and floral design for events all over the world. Today I'm going to teach you a little bit about how we create our signature wedding flat lays using Olive & Oak's beautiful styling surfaces. Today we are going to be working with all of these beautiful styling surfaces. I have a bunch of different flat lays that I'm going to design for you guys, and I'm going to explain sort of how my process works when I'm styling a flat lay for a wedding, what I think about, tips and tricks that I have. And so I'm going to take you through each one of these invitation suites and sort of show you my approach. So the first invitation suite that we are going to be working with is this beautiful velvet, handmade paper, foil, amazing suite from Ink and Press Co. And so as you can see, this suite has a very romantic fine art sort of feel to it. And so I want to make sure that the flat lay sort of tells that story. And so before I'm deciding any of the pieces that I want to style with, I want to look at the individual pieces of the suite. So we can see there are a lot of nature, botanical, floral elements. Obviously, you know, if this is a real bride, she is a little bit playful, whimsical. We can see that in the liner and the colors of the invitation. And so all of the details that I include styling wise, I want to make sure sort of tell that story and further the image of the bride. I think that it's very important with wedding flat lays that you differentiate between what a flat lay would look like for, you know, a brand and what it would look like for an actual bride on her wedding day, because the purpose of a flat lay is to sort of capture those beautiful wedding day details, and if it doesn't continue the story of the wedding, you've kind of failed in your purpose as a designer or stylist with the flat lay, because it's all about continuing the story and, you know, sharing more about your couple. And so one thing I like to remind everyone when we're talking about flat lays is that it's all about levels. I use these I guess lucite sheets. My good friend Michaela from Ink and Press Co., her father actually made these for me. They've got my logo on them. And so I like to use little things like this to make sure that everything has a level and it's raised up. It's a little bit more interesting for the eye, and it's easier to take in all the levels and textures when you do have those layers. Now, if you don't have something like this, no worries. People use Legos. You can use the back of, you know, a ribbon sheet. You can use the lid of a ring box, really anything that helps you kind of create those different layers and levels. So I'm going to start out with these, and then anytime I need, you know, a little bit of extra height, I'll use tape, ribbon, anything that I have. So like I mentioned, we are going to start out with a more maximalist approach. And so what I like to do is I like to begin with placing everything on the styling board and getting every single thing that I might possibly want on there. And then from there, I kind of figure out little vignettes that I'm loving and then start pulling things back to create a more minimal approach. And so as you're adding these levels, you want to make sure that nothing is weighing down the levels that you've already created. And I think that sometimes people get a little bit stressed out about so many different shapes and sizes, but then also a lot of times things looking really symmetrical. So it's all about just placement and figuring out what works there. If you're ever unsure about how something is looking, I think it's really wise to grab your phone and just take a shot right over the top, and you can see exactly how everything looks. I also think it's important to remember that in Western culture, we read things from left to right, and so naturally that's how your eye moves down a flat lay. And so we're going to start by looking up at the top left just naturally. And so let your sort of natural pattern of reading sort of inform the way that you are going to set up this flat lay, so that you can understand the way that other people are going to read it as well. I also, I really love to create little pockets where if the photographer wanted to come in and get a shot sort of right there, they would be able to, you know, tell that little story. And so it's all about just kind of moving things around and adjusting until you get it just right. And I think I haven't quite decided where I want this, because I do want this piece to shine a little bit more. So maybe we'll do something like this. Okay. So now that we kind of have our base flow, I'm going to add in some of these fun name cards. I think that little details like this are really fun, especially if you can get, you know, bridal party names or, you know, any names that are super significant to the bride and groom. I think they just add a fun little bit of texture. And as you can see on this particular flat lay, I'm keeping things pretty angular. I feel like because the calligraphy is so sort of curvy and romantic, it's sometimes nice to give your eye a little bit of structure. And so now that I have this sort of, you know, all of the paper lined up, now it would be time to add in some of those fun bridal details. And so I think we'll start with a couple of blooms, and I'll probably adjust those. But I think just kind of starting to bring in some wedding day details is really a fun way to kind of tell this whole story. And you do have to be careful with your levels, that, you know, things don't start falling out of place as soon as you add in your details. So this right here would be a really great example for me of a very full flat lay. I think that it tells a story, it's really fun, and you can kind of come in and get that as a shot, you can get that as a shot, you can get that as a shot. You can, you know, kind of break it down into a bunch of different pieces. So once I've created this very maximalist photo op, I will then start to pull things back to create a little bit more of a pared down approach. And so one of, I think, the most valuable things that you can work to get a photo of, and that all brides really value, is just the main invitation. And if the bride has really beautiful stamps or anything like that, making sure that that is included as well. So if we take something like this, and then maybe we add in, I always use my own ring as an example. We add in a ring, and then maybe, you know, something like that. That's a really fun minimalist way to capture just the invitation suite, the main invitation suite. Now from there, it might be kind of fun to pull back and focus on some of these more ornate elements. I absolutely love this velvet sheet here, and I think that it is really fun against this pink background. So you could take this, and even though, you know, we know it's a holder for the invitation, we could take it and play around. Maybe it's for you know, the bride or the groom on the wedding day, and we've got these sort of bridal wedding day details now at play, and you kind of have a really fun shot right there. I also think that it's really fun to play around with elements just like the shoes. I think, you know, bridal details, something like that is also really fun and really beautiful. So that is a great way to see how you can start with so much and kind of pare it down to very few things to sort of get a full picture of the wedding day details and tell the story.